Joining us, a perspective now is Yashwant Sinha, former Indian ambassador. He's joining us. Such a pleasure to have you, Ambassador Sinha. We've seen that hostilities have only escalated in this region, and Iran knows that if it strikes again, then Israel will hit back even harder. Now, after assessing the damage of its military capabilities, do you think that Iran will also weigh the political cost at home and in the region of responding or not before it decides on its next move?
I'm sure they will. Thank you for having me. I think we are at an inflection point in the Middle East. And don't forget that the Middle East is our extended neighborhood, not just geographically, but also we have a very large Indian diaspora working in the Gulf and in the larger Middle East. So I think for us, it's a matter of grave concern. And that is why the statements by the Ministry of External Affairs. But I think what happened last night was expected. Israel was expected to retaliate against the missile. The fact that they waited this long was perhaps to weigh with the various consequences. However, I think what is important is that the escalatory ladder is not climbed by either side. Now, Iran, of course, has made statements that they will respond, but we can only hope that that response would be very measured, because the Israeli response coming after almost a month has been focused on or targeted military installations. We don't know the extent of damage that has been done, but the Iranian side concedes that two soldiers have died. However, given what's happened over the last 1 year, over 1 year, on the 7th of October, the terrorist attack by Hamas on Iran, and the escalation ever since, I think one can only hope that saner advice prevails and the matter is contained, the conflagration is contained, so that we do not face the specter of a larger all-out war.
Ambassador, talking of the U.S. Role, then the U.S. has put out a message that it was not involved in this attack on Iran, but having deployed around 100 military personnel to Israel to crew its THAAD air defense system, the U.S. may now find itself involved in helping to defend Israel against any possible Iranian retaliation in future. Now, the U.S., we know, has military bases up and down the Arabian side of the Gulf. The U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet operates out of a strategic port in Bahrain. So what could be the potential U.S. role going forward?
I think the U.S. will actually be caught in a rather awkward moment because, as you're aware, they're on the cusp of going in for a very crucial presidential elections. In fact, I think this will become part of the rhetoric during the election campaign in the United States. However, it's very clear that the United States is firmly behind Israel, irrespective of which party or which candidate. The difference will probably be in nuances, but they're certainly firmly behind Israel. And that is why it's important that this conflict is contained and is not allowed to escalate. Nobody wants a spread of this conflict involving extra-regional powers, and of course, the consequences could be very grave.
Also, Ambassador, talking of the Gulf Arab states, these governments have recently told Iran that they would not allow their countries to be used in an Israeli attack on the Islamic Republic. Memories in Saudi Arabia are still raw of how easily an Iran-backed militia in Iraq was able to inflict severe damage on its petrochemical installations, and that was in a single drone and missile attack in 2019. So do these Gulf Arab states prefer a hands-off approach?
You know, that's an interesting question, because I've served in Riyadh and I've handled the division that looked after Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran later. So I'm aware of the issues involved on both sides. And I think, without going into history, really, I think the issue here is very clear. The statements made, I think the official statements made by the Arab Gulf states is basically condemning the Israeli attack. However, the schism between Iran and the rest of the Arab Gulf states, except perhaps the Houthis in Yemen, is quite clear. So I think while they would certainly condemn an attack by Israel on Iran, at least initially, what has happened last night, and of course support the Palestinian cause, which of course is a cause that is supported by a large number of countries, including India. However, I think
Right. We've lost contact, it seems, with former Indian ambassador. He said that he's served in Riyadh and was talking of how the Gulf Arab states, particularly Saudi Arabia, would like a hands-off approach as far as the West Asia tensions are concerned. We know that Saudi Arabia is also has rolled out, in fact, socio-economic reforms, is looking at a post-oil future, so would not want to get into these geopolitical entanglements. But if you are there with us, Ambassador, please go ahead. Right, so we'll leave it at that. So that was a discussion.